Unlocking the International Journal of Mobile and Blended Learning Educational Technology, explained.
Join us for a comprehensive deep dive into the fascinating intersection of educational technology and modern pedagogy. In this deep dive, we unpack the foundational elements of the International Journal of Mobile and Blended Learning. We explore what it means to study the theoretical, technical, and pedagogical aspects of mobile and blended environments. Discover the journal's history, established in 2009 by David Parsons, and learn how its multidisciplinary research bridges the gap between computer science, ACM Digital Library, InSpec, and human cognition, PsycINFO. Whether you are an educator, an EdTech enthusiast, or a lifelong learner, this exploration will give you a profound understanding of how academic knowledge in the digital age is categorized, published, and indexed.
Educational technology, mobile learning, blended learning, academic journal, pedagogy, David Parsons, EdTech, peer-reviewed, IGI Global, academic indexing.
So today's mission is to take a really close look to take a magnifying glass to this seemingly brief but incredibly dense source.
Yeah, it's quite the document when you really get into it.
It really is. We are looking at a Wikipedia entry.
Right.
And it's detailing an academic publication called the International Journal of Mobile and Blended Learning.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because on the surface, I mean, it's a very short page.
Oh, yeah, it's tiny.
Specifically categorized as an education journal stub, and it was last edited on October 13, 2025. But if you know how to read the metadata, the terminology, and the indexing databases, it actually provides this massive structural outline of the modern educational landscape.
That is exactly the analytical stage we need to set today. I mean, the goal isn't just to read the facts of a stub article, right?
Right. No, we want to go deeper.
Exactly. We are going to dissect the anatomy of an academic journal. When you look at its structure, its focus, and specifically where it is indexed, it stops being this dry list of facts.
It becomes a roadmap.
Yes, a roadmap. It tells us an incredible story about the evolution of how humans learn, how we process information, and how the rigid, traditional academic world attempts to categorize rapid technological change.
And what immediately stands out in the text, at least for me, is the specific vocabulary used to define the journal's core identity.
Broad discipline.
Yeah, it falls under the broad discipline of educational technology. But the text notes that it focuses specifically on three things: the theoretical, the technical, and pedagogical aspects of learning.
That triad is so important.
For anyone navigating this field, those three words represent a really specific tension.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you might assume, given the title, that the technical hardware, the mobile devices, the blended interfaces, that takes center stage in the research.
You might assume that, yeah.
Yeah.
But this journal intentionally forces a completely different perspective.
How so?
Well, the technical aspect is crucial, obviously. You are dealing with software architecture, user interfaces, server latency.
Well, the nuts and bolts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the theoretical aspect is the actual bedrock here. The journal requires an examination of foundational concepts. Why are we using a specific digital tool in the first place?
Right. It's not just tech for tech's sake.
No, exactly. What is the cognitive theory underpinning the interaction? Because without that theoretical foundation, the technology is essentially directionless.
It's just a shiny new toy.
Precisely. Which brings in the third requirement.
The pedagogical aspect.
Yes. And this is where the friction really happens. The journal isn't just evaluating standard instructional methods. It's forcing researchers to prove how traditional teaching translates when the primary interface is a 4-inch touchscreen.
Or a virtual environment.
Right. You can have a flawless theoretical model of memory retention and a bug-free technical application. But if the instructional method fails to connect with the user in that specific environment,
the entire system collapses.
It totally collapses. What's fascinating here is that requiring peer-reviewed research to synthesize all three of these aspects, so the theoretical, the technical, and the pedagogical, acts as a massive filter.
It keeps the quality control high.
It actively prevents the journal from just becoming a catalog of flashy new gadgets.
Yeah, because researchers cannot simply submit a paper proving that a new mobile application functions correctly.
No, that's not enough.
They have to prove that it functions, sure, but then explain the cognitive theory behind why it functions.
And demonstrate that it facilitates human learning in a measurable way.
It's such a rigorous standard. It treats the digital space as a distinct ecosystem of education, not just a novelty.
Ecosystem is the perfect word. And that ecosystem concept is heavily reinforced by the title itself.
Mobile and blended learning.
Exactly. The text specifically targets learning in these environments.
And the word blended implies a merging of traditional and digital spaces,
It does. It isn't treating the digital realm as a supplementary add-on.
like a smartboard rolled into a traditional classroom.
Right, or a projector. It's treating the blended environment as a continuous loop where the physical and the digital are totally synthesized.
Synthesized, I like that. And that synthesis fundamentally changes the nature of the learning itself, doesn't it?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
How you interact with a pedagogical framework while moving through a physical space with a mobile device that is entirely different from how you interact with a static text in a lecture hall.
Sitting in a desk for an hour.
Right.
Right.
By focusing entirely on these blended environments, the journal acknowledges that the medium is inextricably linked to the educational outcome.
To really grasp the foresight of that approach, I think we have to look at the historical context the Wikipedia text provides.
The founding date,
Yeah, it states the journal was established in 2009.
2009.
If you think back to the state of mobile technology in 2009, this is a highly significant date.
Very significant.
We were just entering the foundational era of modern, ubiquitous mobile interfaces. The idea of relying on those devices for rigorous, continuous academic learning was incredibly nascent.
It was nascent, and frankly, it was met with a lot of institutional skepticism.
Oh, I bet.
The academic establishment in 2009 wasn't entirely convinced that mobile phones were anything more than distractions in a classroom setting.
They was something you confiscated, not something you taught with.
Exactly. Establishing a peer-reviewed academic journal dedicated exclusively to this topic at that specific moment was incredibly forward-thinking.
They saw the writing on the wall.
They weren't reacting to an established norm. They were laying down the academic infrastructure for a paradigm shift that was only just beginning to materialize.
And let's not forget the practical reality of 2009 mobile technology.
The hardware.
Yes. We are talking about the era of 3G networks. Imagine trying to execute a complex, blended pedagogical module on a device that drops its signal indoors.
It drains its entire battery in a few hours.
Right. The technical hurdles researchers were studying back then were monumental compared to today's seamless broadband environments.
Which makes the longitudinal study of this field so vital. The technical constraints of 2009 forced researchers to be incredibly precise with their theoretical and pedagogical models.
Because they didn't have the bandwidth to be sloppy.
Exactly. They couldn't rely on high-definition video or instantaneous cloud computing to mask a poor instructional design. The core mechanics of how to teach through a screen had to be highly optimized.
That continuity brings us to a remarkable detail in the text regarding the key figures behind the publication.
The editor-in-chief.
Yeah, it names David Parsons from Massey University as the primary architect. But what is structurally significant is that the text states Parsons established the journal in 2009, and he remains the editor-in-chief today.
That is huge.
The entire mobile landscape has transformed. The bandwidth, the devices, the cultural integration of screen time, yet this one individual has maintained editorial control the entire time.
That kind of longevity is incredibly rare, and it is highly consequential for a peer-reviewed journal.
Why is that?
Having the same editor-in-chief for over a decade and a half through a period of exponential technological volatility, it ensures a rigid consistency in vision.
Right, he knows exactly what the journal's supposed to be.
Parsons has essentially shepherded this discipline from its absolute infancy into full maturity. It prevents the journal from constantly shifting its editorial standards to chase whatever new tech trend happens to be dominating the news cycle.
It's not just jumping on the bandwagon for every new gadget.
Exactly. It provides a stable, unshifting anchor for an incredibly fast-moving field of study.
And that steady editorial hand directly influences how the journal operates within the broader mechanics of academic publishing, because the Wikipedia page outlines the partnership that brings this research to the public, and it's a fascinating division of labor.
It really is.
It notes that this is the official journal of the International Association for Mobile Learning, which is based in the United States. However, it is published on their behalf by an entity called IGI Global.
It is a symbiotic relationship that perfectly illustrates how modern academic knowledge is actually disseminated.
How does that breakdown work practically?
Well, the professional association, the International Association for Mobile Learning, acts as the intellectual engine. They are the network of subject matter experts, the pedagogues and the computer scientists who conduct the experiments and provide the rigorous peer review.
The brains behind the operation?
Right, but generating knowledge and distributing it globally are two entirely different skill sets.
Right. The researchers aren't running server farms.
Yeah.
Or managing global library subscriptions.
Exactly. That is where IGI Global comes in. They take the raw, peer-reviewed science, curated by the association. They format it, they ensure it meets international library standards, and push it out through their established distribution networks.
So the association focuses on the integrity of the educational technology, and the publisher handles the logistics of making it accessible.
Perfectly stated. We also gain insight into the rhythm of this specific publishing apparatus from the text.
The publication schedule.
Yes, it specifies that it is a quarterly journal.
4 times a year.
Right. Now, in the context of technology, 3 months is an eternity. Entirely new software frameworks can be developed and deployed in a single quarter.
You see that all the time.
But in the context of peer-reviewed academia, where experiments must be designed, executed, analyzed, and independently vetted, a quarterly release schedule is a relentless driving pace.
It is a constant cycle of synthesis.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
Despite studying the absolute cutting edge of digital mobile ephemera on this rapid quarterly schedule, the text reveals a highly irregular transition of mediums.
Oh, the annual collections.
Yes. It states that annual collections of papers from this journal are also published as a series of edited books. They take all of this research about boundless digital blended environments and enshrine it in the most traditional static physical format possible.
It is a profound paradox. You have an entire academic community dedicated to proving that learning can happen anywhere dynamically through digital screens. Yet at the end of the year, they still utilize the physical book as the ultimate archival medium. It suggests that while the delivery of education is becoming increasingly mobile, the academic record itself still relies on the permanence of print to establish historical authority.
That duality is literally encoded into the metadata provided in the stub.
The identifiers.
Yeah, the Wikipedia entry lists 3 distinct identifiers that prove the rigor of the publication. A print ISSN of 1941-8647, a web ISSN of 1941-8655, and an OCLC number of 216-884-549.
Those identifiers are the scaffolding of global academic tracking.
They legitimize the whole operation.
Absolutely. And having both a distinct print ISSN and a distinct web ISSN mirrors the very nature of the journal. It is a blended publication in the most literal sense. It exists officially and simultaneously in physical libraries and digital repositories.
And what about that OCLC number?
The OCLC number ties it directly into the global network of library catalogs. It ensures that a researcher, regardless of their location, can pinpoint this specific repository of knowledge.
Which transitions us into what is unequivocally the most expansive and analytical section of this entire source text.
The abstracting and indexing section.
Yes. This isn't just a list of databases. It is the actual map of how this knowledge is categorized by the global scientific community. The text lists 6 different databases, and the variance between them is staggering.
It's a very wide net.
It is highly unusual to see such a widespread of indexing databases for a single publication, and it highlights just how multidisciplinary the study of blended learning is.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to understand that indexing databases are the ultimate arbiters of an academic journal's impact and identity.
They're the gatekeepers.
They really are. If a journal isn't indexed by the major gatekeepers, its research effectively doesn't exist to the broader scientific community.
Wow, so it's make or break.
Completely. The databases that agree to index a journal tell you precisely what kind of science is surviving the peer review process. And the list in this stub reveals a massive tension between hard computer science and deep human psychology.
Let's dissect the technical side of that map first. The text lists the ACM Digital Library, which is the Association for Computing Machinery.
A major player.
It also lists InSpec from the Institution of Engineering and Technology and Compendex, which is an Elsevier engineering database. For anyone working in the sciences, these are not lightweight generalized databases.
No, not at all.
These are the absolute heavy hitters of engineering and computer science.
The inclusion in ACM InSpec and Compendex is a massive validation of the technical aspect we discussed earlier.
It proves they aren't just messing around.
It proves that the International Journal of Mobile and Blended Learning isn't just publishing theoretical essays on teaching strategies, it is publishing hard, rigorous engineering research.
So we are talking about papers detailing complex network architecture,
Algorithmic efficiency in mobile learning environments.
The mathematical modeling of human-computer interaction.
Exactly. The global engineering community recognizes this journal as a valid source of technical innovation.
But then you look at the very next database on the list, and it completely subverts that purely technical narrative.
This is the best part.
The journal is also indexed in PsycINFO, which the text notes is produced by the American Psychological Association. So you have the Institution of Engineering and Technology on one side and the American Psychological Association on the other, both looking at the exact same quarterly journal and extracting entirely different scientific value from it.
This raises an important question. Why does a psychological database care about network architecture and mobile interfaces?
Why would they?
Because you cannot study mobile learning without studying the human mind's reaction to it.
It's all connected.
Indexing in PsycINFO means the journal is producing rigorous psychological data. A computer scientist might read an article in this journal to understand how to reduce server latency.
To make the app run faster.
Right. But a psychologist reads that exact same article to understand how that latency impacts a student's cognitive load,
Their attention span.
their memory retention in a blended environment.
The hardware and the software are in direct conversation with human cognition. The engineering databases evaluate how the application runs, while the psychology database evaluates how the application alters the psyche of the user.
It is the ultimate synthesis of their theoretical, technical, and pedagogical mission statement, and it's playing out in real time across global databases.
And to solidify its standing across all of those disparate fields, the text notes its inclusion in Scopus and the Emerging Sources Citation Index by Thomson Reuters.
The prestige metrics.
Yes, exactly. They are the overarching gatekeepers of academic credibility.
To maintain indexing in Scopus, a journal has to continuously pass rigorous, independent evaluations of its peer review integrity and its citation impact.
It's not a one-and-done approval.
No, they are constantly monitored. It guarantees to any university or policymaker that the multidisciplinary data within this journal meets global scholarly standards.
It's genuinely remarkable that we can extract that level of structural insight about the global educational framework from a page that Wikipedia explicitly labels as incomplete.
It really is.
Let's look at the meta-narrative of the source itself, because the anatomy of this Wikipedia article is deeply ironic.
Oh, I love the irony here.
At the bottom of the page, the text states, "This article about an education journal is a stub. You can help Wikipedia by adding missing information. It is officially filed under hidden categories like all stub articles and education journal stubs."
The irony is unavoidable.
Yeah.
We have spent this entire time analyzing the rigorous peer-reviewed mechanisms of a journal dedicated to educational technology and blended learning.
Right.
Yet our source material is an article hosted on Wikipedia, which is fundamentally the most expansive and successful collaborative educational technology platform ever created.
It is the ultimate blended environment.
It is an open, blended learning environment in its purest form.
And it utilizes all the pedagogical tools of that environment. The text shows links to talk pages for collaborative debate. It operates under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license to ensure the knowledge remains fluid.
Very different from a lockdown academic PDF.
Completely. And it features built-in tools to download as PDF or generate a download QR code. You can take this digital text about a digital journal, generate a QR code, scan it with your mobile device, and instantly step into the exact type of mobile learning ecosystem that David Parsons has been studying since 2009.
It is a perfect micro-ecosystem. The metadata of the stub itself, showing it was last edited on October 13th, 2025, demonstrates that knowledge in a blended environment is never static.
It's always moving.
Unlike the annual printed books the journal produces, the digital stub is a living document, perpetually open to revision and expansion by the very community it serves.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means that even a fragment of information, a mere stub, can reveal the intricate scaffolding of human knowledge if you interrogate it properly.
You just have to know where to look.
The specific phrasing of the discipline, the historical timeline of its founding, the division of labor with the publisher, and the incredible tension between the engineering and psychological indexing databases.
None of this is just administrative clutter.
It is the blueprint of how academia is attempting to map our digital transition.
And mapping that transition is critical for you to understand, because it isn't just an abstract academic exercise. The frameworks being established by journals like this and validated by these massive databases are literally dictating the future of pedagogy.
They are writing the rules for the next generation.
They are determining which technological theories are considered sound, and which instructional methods are deemed scientifically valid for the next generation of digital learners.
We have covered a massive amount of ground by simply reading between the lines of this text. We analyzed the three-pronged requirement of theoretical, technical, and pedagogical research.
We contextualized the journal's foundational roots in the early mobile landscape of 2009 under David Parsons.
We explored the logistical partnership with IGI Global, and we spent significant time mapping the deep multidisciplinary divide between the hard computer science databases like ACM and the cognitive evaluations of PsycINFO.
And we did it all through the lens of a collaborative open-source Wikipedia stub.
As the lines between physical and digital spaces continue to blur, the academic rigor we discuss today will directly shape the blended environments you interact with every single day.
Which leaves us with a final lingering contradiction to consider.
The paradox.
We spend a great deal of time discussing how this journal takes its quarterly ephemeral digital research regarding boundless mobile environments, and at the end of every year, painstakingly binds it into a series of edited physical books.
Right.
In a society so completely driven by instantaneous mobile access to information, why do we still possess such a profound psychological need to anchor our most cutting-edge digital discoveries in the pages of a traditional static book?
It is a fascinating question of permanence versus accessibility. Does the physical weight of a bound text signal an intellectual authority to the human brain that a digital file simply cannot replicate? As you continue to navigate your own professional and personal development, we encourage you to examine your preferred environments. When you encounter deeply complex material, do you instinctively rely on the boundless digital space, the traditional physical text, or your own carefully curated blend of the two? Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. Keep interrogating the structures of the information you consume, and we will catch you next time.